Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley, living like a head bitch in charge. I am really excited about these next couple episodes, just to give you a preview of what's coming. We've got starting today, and the next few episodes are going to be related more on the authorizing environment at work. And it's called Welcome to the Boys Club. Their game, our rules, your style. And it's based off of a speech that I did. The conference name was Women in Economic Development Forum, put on by Area Development. And the last time I did it was in their 2024 conference in October. And they got the condensed version because it was just my kickoff speech for the conference. However, I've gotten so much feedback from them and the audience and I still send these out today. I'm coming up and I'm going to give you, and Joe's going to put up a list of different things that I'm going to talk about. But the whole idea around Welcome to the Boys Club is really about understanding our authorizing environment. And in business, as much as we would like to say how far women have come, I think it's very apparent for every woman in business how far we still have to go. And the authorizing environment is a boys' club. And if there are any gentlemen out there listening to this that beg to differ, I've got some stats I want you to listen to. And it's not because again, I'm not going to go into feelings. I'm just going to talk about stats. And I'm going to also talk about what it does when we interact with an authorizing environment, who and how their perception is of the information we give them through the way we talk, through the tasks we take on, through how we show up. And yes, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. It isn't fair that we have to do things a little different, work a little harder, and prove ourselves time and time again. I was coaching a woman the other day, and she's like, I'm so tired of defending. My word is just not good enough. That sucks. How do we do that, deal with that, and then how do we change that authorizing environment so you don't have to defend? And so today, in the next few days or the next few episodes, we're going to talk about this. And I'm going to try to give you some things that I use in my pantry. And I've actually gained a lot of insight from speaking with other women of how they navigate. How do you swim that? Because women, we are always walking that tightrope. So today, we'll get on. Welcome to the Boys Club. Their game, our rules, your style. Let's take a look at this. 73% of global manager positions are held by men. Okay, that is an authorizing environment. Who's your management? Look at that. 72% of senior leaders are men. Who really has the power to affect and to see and to do? And then 62% of managers making promotion decisions are men. I'm not here to debate or discuss this. These are facts, these are numbers, and I can give, Joe, I'll give you the sources for all of these. And then for every 100 men promoted to manager, this is manager, it's not executive, manager. Okay, only 81, this was taken from the McKinsey Women in the Workplace study in 2020, and I can probably update these numbers. But again, I'll come back and I'll give you guys a source sheet so you can go look and figure out where you want to. But again, these are just the numbers. So first of all, the management positions is mostly male. The senior leaders are mostly male. The people making the decisions around promotions are male for the most part. And then this is what kills me about the McKinsey study about the 81 women for every 100 men getting promoted, is that there's not enough women in the pool when it comes to getting into senior leadership positions to pick from, because there's less of us going up, being promoted to manager even. So again, this tells you your environment. How do we break this? And again, you've heard me say this before, is how do I help you help me? And one of the things that I learned during my marriage was the person that is listening on the other end may or may not hear what I say if I keep using the same words to convey that message. You know, Joe, we've talked a little bit about how you talk to men and what men hear versus how what women hear. And this works in the same way in business, in the corporate environment. So it's important to understand that the people who define leadership potential most likely don't look like us. I think the numbers and the stats that I just gave you show that. And because they don't look like us, they typically don't speak like us either. And so they don't hear like us. They're not, the words we say and the phrases we use aren't heard the same way. And this is really impactful. I don't know if you've ever heard of the clone club theory and what that is. We tend to gravitate towards what looks like us, thinks like us, and acts like us, right? And so when we're in a situation where our authorizing environment is male, it's important to understand what we do, say, and think, not think so much, but do and say, how that resonates or doesn't resonate within that authorizing environment. So again, you know, the shit is not just unfair, it's unhealthy. And what's unhealthy about it is, and this is the impact of why you should care, because what we're seeing is 50% of women, all women in the workplace experiencing discrimination are at a higher rate of heart risk, disease, and hypertension. Okay? American Heart Association studies showed that. 60% of women say workplace stress leads to anxiety or depression. Okay? We've heard that before. We've experienced that before. And then suppressing emotions, that increases the risk of cancer by 70%, and it doubles the early death risk rate. It doubles that. When we show up and when we come out and we talk about it and we express our anger at work, it's met by 75%, and this is a study done off of Jennifer Cox's book, Women Are Angry, in 2022. 75% of women feel they can't express anger at work without backlash. So this is the cycle. If I am feeling those microaggressions, or I get frustrated, or I have anxiety, or I'm in that environment that is compressing on me, I don't feel like I can express that with anger or in any other fashion a lot of times. And what does that lead to? Suppressing emotions, increased risk of cancer by 70%, and doubles the early death risk rate. That is incredible. So that's why it's important, okay? So the constant code switching, the softening, the apologizing, it kills more than your credibility. It kills your health, women. We got to think about this. I just came off some segments on our physical health. Think about that for a second. When we suppress, when we are in this environment, it's not that we don't know how to businessly navigate, like what the strategy is, how to show up for meetings and things like that, but it's other things. So again, who is the authorizing environment? Okay. How do they do that? What can we control about how we show up to maybe navigate that authorizing environment? And again, this is not about placating. This is not about switching who you are. This is just their game. Okay. Their game. But now I'm going to talk about our rules. And one of the themes is that I want to get across is politeness does not get you promoted. And it doesn't even guarantee that you're going to get your job and keep your job. So what I did when I started working on this speech is I started looking up the words women use versus the words men use. Okay. And the words women use mainly And think about this. Just how often do you use these words? Feel. I feel. Maybe. Try. We'll try to do that. Could you do this? I mean, when you're talking to your team, when you're talking to a client, suggest. I suggest. This one was a big one for me. I suggest. Because again, I didn't want to come across as, this is how you need to do it. And this is a big one. I think when I'm talking to a client, and just like and most of my clients were men in my land development and negotiation area, it was men that I was dealing with. And I say, I feel like this is what we should do. Maybe we want to try this avenue. I use maybe and try both in that same sentence, Could we do this? And then I suggest. I always used to say, consider this. Because again, I wanted to put a little sugar in that medicine to help it go down. Now, men typically say, I know, we must, let's do, you should. Women, we know they say you should. But in work, we've heard it. We should, we must. And then they'll say, I tell you this. Okay? And a big one that men typically use is they say, here's the plan, instead of I think. They give it to you. So if you're talking to a client, and this is the way I approach it, which one is going to pay you more? Who's going to make them feel more confident in your skills? Which words are they going to say? I suggest, or I tell, or I advise. You must need to do X, Y, and Z. I know that our expectations are this, and so I want to, and so I'm going to present this as I know. Again, these are just subtle things. One of the biggest, when I started looking at, because I started looking at this when I was in corporate, because I had an interaction with a male colleague of mine, and he said, I know you're more confident than you sound. I know you're more confident than you sound. And I said, what do you mean? Because I felt like I had conveyed my point, but and we went through, he said, you say things. And this is what he said to me. This is the line that got me. He said, you said, I feel we might want to consider. And I was like, think about it. I feel, well, no one really gives a shit about how you feel in business. Okay, we might. I'm telling a client we might want to do something. Want to consider? Okay, well, how confident is that? But here's some things that I learned to say instead. Let's move forward with. Our plan is this. And then ask for feedback on the end. We can do this. Even if I don't want to say I can say we can do this. In meetings where I would meet with teams, especially in PPMDs, I would say we can do this. Let's move forward with this, and then present my idea. Because if they don't want to do your idea, they're going to tell you. If they don't agree with you, they're going to tell you. So why am I not presenting it? Just let them. It's almost like disregarding my thought or my idea or my advice before it even gets to the table. So again, just present the facts. The other thing that I want to convey or whatever is, or that I'm going to, I should watch what I say. What I'm going to convey is that I didn't realize how much of being nice was important to me in business. I thought being nice was very important in the sense of, if you liked me, if you agreed with me, if your interactions didn't have, weren't gruff, if I was the one that always got along, and that shit doesn't get you promoted. Nice girls finish last. It's the behavior trap, and stop mistaking compliance for collaboration. I had to learn that. I had to stop mistaking compliance for collaboration, and what that means is the scenario. we want to be recognized for promotion, right? We want you to see what we're doing. And when I say we, women, want men, our bosses, our team, to see what we're doing. Okay? We're just kind of hanging out, waiting to be asked out on a date. Men, what do? They typically ask directly, or they say, it's time for my promotion. It isn't even, I want to be a promotion. It's time for my promotion. And they bring it up and they proactively go get it. And this goes more than just promotion time. It means all of those little things that we do. And I learned this in Big Four. You've got to toot your own horn. And it was very uncomfortable. I remember at EY, we would have to do our reviews. Oh my gosh. And I hated them. And I remember everybody hated them. And what it was is that we would typically have to write up a whole list of everything we did. And I say everything I did. And that was the key, is you couldn't say, my team did this. You had to put, I did this. I am the greatest thing since sliced bread. And nobody else is better than me. I mean, it had to be hardcore. And that was really hard for me at first. And then I started, thinking about this. The other thing that I realized when I was doing that, again, is I can't wait I need to tell you. And the best way for me to tell you is typically, if I've done something great, what I will do is I will send an email, or I used to. I will send an email to everybody and say, this is, and everybody knows that I've done this, right? They all know it. They've all seen it, whether it's closing the deal, whether it's return on margin on an account, whatever it is. And then I email them and I'll say, hey, this is what I did. I did this, blah, 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 blah. This was the outcome, boom. And typically I get back, great job, da, 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 da. And you know what? That goes in my file. That now becomes part of my file. That is a quote, that is documentation that I have done good. So when it comes around time for promotion, I can put it together and I can say, hey, it's time for my promotion. Here's the evidence to back it up. And I'll get to later what I typically did instead of documenting. The other things is leadership offers. I've heard this before, and I can't remember the exact stats, and I should have had them. Maybe I'll put them up when we actually publish this podcast. But I think it's like 90% of men apply for jobs that they only have like 50% of the qualifications for. And it's like 60% of women, would who have the same or higher qualifications would apply for that job. And I've done this tons. I can't do this because I'm not qualified. All right. And we decline because of self-doubt, because we are holding ourselves, and I don't know if it's self-doubt, but I think we hold ourselves to a higher standard. You've all heard the expression, I wish women had the confidence of a single white of an average white male. I wish women had the confidence of an average white male. I mean, think about that, ladies. And so when leadership offers come, when that project that everybody wants comes, we typically go, no, dial it back. Because again, we have a lot to lose if we don't show up and do it right, but we typically dial back. Men are like, game on, even if they're unqualified. Most likely if they're unqualified. I mean, there's no, it's one of those things where, but they accept it. And typically I have turned it down. I'm too nervous. I'm too scared. Which again, it's that fear of, I don't have all the boxes checked. No one has all the boxes checked. Meetings, women, I do this. Women tend to listen and support. Men dominate and assert authority. And if you don't believe me on this, watch your meetings. Watch who's talking, typically, and watch who is being collaborative and then saying, oh, I like that idea. What if we did this? but they're not really being assertive. And that was me. I would always do this. One of the things that I used to do when I would get nervous and I saw this is a big tattle on me, Joe. I was in a meeting, and it was a subcommittee meeting that I attended, and it was at the Raleigh Chamber, and it was for the Economic Development Committee, and then there was a subcommittee meeting, and I was on the subcommittee meeting, and we had a lunch, and everybody's sitting at the table, and I didn't know all these people. I was new to the committee, and oh my God, this is just what I used to do. It just kills me. And this is probably, I mean, this was in my later years at EY. It wasn't like I was a newbie in business. But when I got nervous, this is what I did. I would go, hey, do you want some more tea? I'm going to get some more tea. Do you want some? Oh, that's nice, right? What the hell am I doing waiting on other people? So I was carrying back like 3 cups of tea. I chose to put myself in that position of being a little nanny, waitress, like, and I'm not saying you don't have to do nice things, but for one of my first meetings, that's not how I need to show up. Get your own goddamn tea and bring me mine. And it's just this really weird mentality that I brought to it. And I literally sat down, and then what happened afterwards is someone in that meeting who I brought the tea to asked me to take notes. And I don't take notes. I don't take notes, one, because you can't read them, and I can't do that when I'm in a meeting. I have to be there present, and that's how I remember. But 2, I'm not there to take notes. But I had literally set myself up for that. Because what happened was, while they were talking in their groups, I was getting tea for everybody. Again, I was supportive, I was listening, I was being kind. I'm not there to do that. I'm there to do what the committee needed me to do, which was offer my advice, my insights, and my guidance. So again, how are we showing up? And I used to, Herman Tinsley, he used to work for the Alabama Chamber, or Mobile, Alabama Chamber, and if I get this right. And he said, in every meeting, have poise and have purpose. He said, you cannot leave a meeting without adding to the meeting. Even if it's just a summation of, this is what we're going to do coming out of this meeting. And he said, and the way you need to do that and give that is you have to have purpose. You have to say something that adds to it, but you can't deflect from it before you say it. And again, I'm not just there to listen. The reason why you are in the rooms you are is not just to listen. It's to give advice. It's to hold court for yourself and your opinions and your insights. So again, the scenario, criticisms. I used to self-reflect, right? Like, oh, we're going to take this, you get this back, and you take it and you listen. And typically men, they just defend. They defend their point of view. They defend their stance. Salary negotiations. I coach on this a lot, and I used to kind of just modestly request. And men walk into salary negotiations for the most part and say, hey, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what I'm worth. And I truly believe that, and I tell this to people that I coach when we're working through kind of where they want to be, is you start at the sun, you come down to the moon, you bounce through a cloud, you come down on a star, and then you hit a tree, and then you slide down the tree, and then you plant your feet on the ground. But you start at the sun, okay? And so why am I negotiating against myself before I even enter the room? If there is room for negotiation, I definitely want to be on the higher end of that negotiation. If they want me, they will make me a reasonable offer coming back. And the other thing that I've learned through negotiation, it tells people when my request of either salary or coming back with a counteroffer or anything like that, even if it's a first offer in negotiations, and I don't confidently demand or I don't confidently set that high enough, they're going to start to wonder about my credibility. Why are you willing to go for so cheap? We did this the other day when I was looking at houses to rent. You're like, why is that only that amount in that location with that yard and those things? But it does, and it sets the perception. But again, from a negotiation standpoint, why am I meekly going in there requesting, I'll just take half, when I ask for everything and maybe I get half? You know, you can always end up at half at a lower amount. I've never been able to negotiate up once that bar is set. If I've set that bar, I've gotten offers and negotiated up. Okay. But I've never put in an offer low and then negotiated up. Because why would they? That doesn't make sense.
All right, legends. Your morning coffee is sacred. It fuels your badassery. But your mug should do more than hold caffeine. It should hold attitude. Enter the Mugshot Crew. Most days you'll get a text with a fresh mugshot, a quote, a punchline, or a truth bomb that'll either make you snort your latte or remind you that you're a walking powerhouse. Some days, Christine's lucky to find a clean bra, so if you miss one, don't panic. Think of it as a daily pantry essential, a shot of sass with your caffeine. Some days it's inspiration. Fuck fear, sit boldly. Other days it's a brutal truth. Decaf is a crime, and I will press charges. And sometimes it's just a vibe. Living like an HBIC. Look in the mirror. One text, one mugshot, most every day. Because your coffee should hit as hard as your ambitions. Sign up now at ChristineSpratly.com and add some spice to your pantry. One mugshot at a time. The Mugshot Crew. Sipping loud, living proud.
A lot of times women, we are over-mentored and under-promoted because we are perceived as being nice. Okay? So how do we flip the script? This is a big one for me. Stop saying, I'm sorry. And I feel like, and I think. State your position without those things when you show up. A big one for me is I'm sorry. And I will have a list that I got. I think it was at LinkedIn. Someone put out there, instead of saying, I'm sorry, things you can say. Now, the way that I think about this is, and typically people focus on the first few words that you say because we're so attention span. And that will, if we say those few words, then those are the imprint. And then they kind of go, okay, well, I'll listen. I'll continue to listen. And if I say, I'm sorry for being late. Okay, what does that mean? What do you hear? It means I made a mistake, was sorry for being late. Again, I'm reiterating the bad thing that I did. Okay, now people are going to go, well, we have to admit our mistakes. I got told one time by a client that he doesn't pay me to say I'm sorry. Okay, I got told by a client, I don't pay you to say I'm sorry. And then he said, I pay you to fix it and not make it again. And so what should I be focused on? I'm late. Okay. Hey, thank you for your patience. I'm here. Let's get started. One, I'm thanking them. I'm giving them a compliment. So I'm diffusing their pissed offness for me being late. Okay. Or you bring cinnamon rolls like I did this morning with Joe. But I'm diffusing that. I'm giving them a compliment. So if they still want to yell, whatever, or scream, they're making that choice after I've given them a compliment. And then I'm taking it on to the solution. Because again, the people around you, they know you made a mistake. If they haven't, then you address the mistake and you say, this is the mistake. Okay. All right. Yes, and? I use yes, and a lot. And we'll get into that again. And I got that from a speaker on that he teaches about communication. Yes, and. Instead of saying I'm sorry, yes, and oh yeah, yes, that's a good point. I did make that mistake, and let's do more. But take that out of your vocabulary. I'm sorry. And it feels like I think it's this way. What if I said, the data shows, my experience is, my experience tells me. Okay? And then when you challenge yourself to state it without the disclaimer, and again, they can always tell you, no, I'm not going to do that. That's a crazy ass batshit idea, Christine. But put it out there. So the mantra drops: assert over apologize. Okay? We got it. You're late. You're here. I'm here now. This is what we're going to do. I appreciate you for being patient. Understand your time is valuable. Let's go. Okay? And stop waiting to take your seat. Stop waiting to be invited into the conversation. Jump in. I read, and I can't remember what McKinsey report it was, but there was a quote that said, I don't see people at the table that look like me. And so I don't feel like I can do that. And I thought about that, and it really stuck in my head because it really bothered me, actually. I understand that. But I can't wait to be invited to take my seat. I would rather grab the fucking seat and be told it's not my seat. And then when they tell me it's not my seat, I want to sit there and go, are you sure? Can you prove it? Whose seat is it? If I'm leaving, whose seat is it and why? And if that's not the table you belong to, you want to belong to, then build your own damn table. Okay? And say what you mean. And then stop. That was hard for me to do. I over-explained. And thank God for ChatGPT and Grammarly, because I could take something and condense it down and just let it land. Give them the silent treatment. Let them figure out what to say next. Okay? So one, let's edit our language. Ask for what we deserve. Speak it, say it, practice it. I practice it at home all the time. Reclaim the room. Interrupt the interrupter. This one I love. It's when someone's dominating a meeting, and we've all been there. And it took me a long time to figure out how to. Thank you for sharing. Now let's see what everybody else has to say. That was great. Share and interrupt the interrupter. Okay? Redirect the spotlight. If it's not on you, redirect it to someone else if you want to do that. But redirect it. And then the other thing that I'm going to tell you, ladies, is to stop with the elevator speeches. And I think that one of the things that I did at the Area Development Conference was I was like, all right, we're going to walk out of here with value props. What is your value prop? What is your value prop? Not your elevator speech. Because people, when they ask you, what do you do? Tell me something about yourself, especially in networking, they're not asking you to tell you what you do, how many timesheets you filled out. They're not asking you how you did on your Excel files. What they're really saying is, what value can you bring me? What do you have of value? So when we're talking to our authorizing environment, use the words that I said before that the guys use. But give it to them in the value prop. One of the things that I learned very late was that my superpower, and there'll be the next one is about kind of understanding and finding your superpower in business. But one of the things that I learned was my superpower and how to explain that in a value prop. And I remember telling this to someone, actually we were on a client call, and my background was in land development before I got into Big Four corporate negotiations on land development and site selection. And so I used to be a permit runner. It was like my first job. I couldn't tell building plans from a site plan. And so I learned a lot about land development. And I also learned a lot about how to maneuver in a room and how to hear. I can SWOT analysis a room pretty good. And so I was asked by this client who I'd done some negotiations for to get on a call with, we had done all the negotiations. I'd gotten them millions of dollars of incentives, and now they were ready to go forward, build, and do permitting and all of that stuff. And the client at the time that was leading, the executive stakeholder, didn't know anything about that stuff. And so they just kind of wanted me on there because they didn't know how to interact with these vendors. They had never done this type of permitting, this type of development before. And so they needed someone that could translate to them. And I got on this call, and I am a woman in Big Four, which is an accounting firm. It was Deloitte at the time. And on a call with like 5 other guys, and from big engineering firms, construction firms, all these real estate boys. And it was really interesting. You could just hear when I was introduced, you could see it. And women, we've all been in those rooms where they introduce you and you could just see and hear the eye rolls and the sighs. And I got it. I mean, where does this chick in this Big Four accounting firm, what the hell value does she's just going to get my shit and mess it up. And this is why your value prop is so important. Okay. And it's not an elevator speech. I do this. No, what I went in and I said, guys, listen, I can tell y'all, I'm not here to jam up your stuff, first and foremost. That's not my job. I'm not here to tell you how to make sure your plumbing isn't horizontal and your CFS works right. I'm not here to do any of that. What I am here to do is, and I told him my value prop, and basically my value prop is I can walk into a meeting. We're going to have a meeting with all of these stakeholders down at the city and down at the county. And you guys are going to go in, everybody's going to be in there. Okay. And you're going to all interact. You're going to show them your plans. You're going to, talk through things. And then we're going to walk out and we're going to debrief. And my value that I bring is I'm going to be able to tell you which one of those people actually does shit and get shit done. Which one of them is giving you a line of bullshit that'll never get you anywhere? Which one of them is scared to death, acts like they're really great, but has no pull whatsoever? But most importantly, I'm going to probably be able to tell you which one's going to jam your ass up. And it was like the meeting just turned on a dime. They all relaxed. They all were like, great. And then what else happened was once I stated what I could do for them, they started coming to me and saying, hey, I was told this, this, and this, and this. I want to do this. What do you think? And that was my value prop. I can help you read the room that you can't see, don't see, or don't need to see because you're so focused on what you need to be focused on because you're the expert in here. So women, what is your value prop? And then communicate it without the disclaimers, without the words that we say, think, feel, and all of that. Put it out there and see how it lands. There is a double standard. We all know that. And until that changes, how do you navigate through that? Think about that. How do you navigate through the bullshit? And are you navigating it to the best of your ability? I think one of the biggest things for me was having inside moles. And I would tell you, ladies, up and down, get yourself an inside mole. And ask them, that guy who said, I know you're a lot more confident than you sounded. And go, what? And start learning. Start learning how your authorizing environment hears you, sees you. Okay? And the other last thing is stop doing those soul-sucking, unfulfilling, mindless tasks. Don't take notes. Tell somebody else to take notes. If you're the one that I used to tell one of the girls, one of the women that I worked with, she was younger, so I call her a girl, but she's a woman. And I used to say, she's like, I hate taking notes. I said, great. Then when a meeting comes in and you see the list of people on that meeting, assign a note taker. She's like, oh, I can't do that. I said, why not? Well, I'm not the PPMD. I'm like, so? Assign it. Say, oh, so-and-so, you take these notes, it'd be really good. Again, choose the role you want, step into it, take that seat, make sure it's the table you want to sit at, but understand the boys' club. It's their game, but our rules, and then you do it in your style with words you're comfortable with, but find the words. Find the words that land. Give yourself that opportunity. Again, we are going to have a few of these, and I think the next one's really going to want to be resonating with people because it's how to tell people off, basically to fuck off professionally, and how to kind of maneuver that with your anger in there. So until next time, ladies, thank you, and gentlemen, thank you. And gentlemen, if you're listening and you see a woman that is in your business that knows her shit, because I'm sure you got a few of them, go talk to her. Go tell her how things land. Give her the inside scoop. You know, and women, when men come up and they tell us and they say, hey, this is how you're landing. Granted, we've got the assholes out there that are going to just put you down, but the ones that you know the ones. You know, the ones that did it for me were Carl and Brandon and Anthony and even my manager, Jason, in my later years, Dan, in my earlier years. And they pull you aside and they say, hey, what's up? I know you've got this. You know, listen, figure it out, navigate with them, conquer with them, go get what you want with them. You know, I always say, you know, get as much into your toolkit as possible and then go kick ass and take names. So until next time, ladies, Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratly. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.